Hi, everybody. Welcome to Perfect Detours. My name is Bob Kaiser, and I am your host. It's a beautiful sunny night here in Chicago, and I am super excited for this show, like I am for all my shows, but this show specifically. I am in the middle of my authenticity series, and I have a guest with me tonight who I think she is the epitome of authenticity and the journey that she has gone through to rediscover who she is. So I'm super excited for her to be on here and just for a conversation with the community, what we're all doing and what we're trying to strive for, just to know who we are in this world that I think sometimes encourage us to maybe be other people, other things than who we really are. So anyway, my name is Bob Kaiser. As I said, I'm the host of this show. My preferred pronouns, as you can see in my title, is he and him. This show has been in existence for about a year and a half. It started on WGHC 98.3 FM Chicago. That station is on hiatus, and I love doing the show so much. I really didn't want it to go away, so I started doing it here on all of the broadcasting platforms and everything. So if you're watching on like Facebook or YouTube, etc., you can join the conversation. In fact, I would love for you to join the conversation. Just type your comments in the comment box. We can see them, and we will definitely be asking for your thoughts on what we're talking about, maybe asking our guest a question. But again, this is a question for all of us in this community. I think that by us sharing our experience, strength, and hope, that all of us continue to that next level of self-discovery and authenticity. So if you've not watched the show before, the idea for the show, Perfect Detours, is that so many times in our lives, we have things that happen to us or choices that we make that in the time that it happens, we think, I can't believe that happened. That might be the worst thing that's ever happened to me. But in hindsight, we realize that those were the opportunities, the catalyst towards living a life beyond our wildest dreams. And that's what this show is for us to examine those moments and to remind ourselves that maybe the universe is conspiring for us instead of against us. So as I said, we're going to be talking about authenticity. I've had two shows so far. Our first show was with author Keith Butler, who has a new book out about being a gay Black man, and talked about growing up as the gay Black boy and then up to adulthood and the masks that he wore and how he found his authenticity. And last week, I had a show just kind of catching us up with why we want to even be authentic and why do we want to do that, or maybe why do we not want to do it. So, and then this week, we're starting a mini 3-part series on authenticity. But before I even go any further, let's talk about what is authenticity, and specifically, what does it mean to be authentic? And if anybody's watched the show before, they know I'm really big on definitions. That I've gone to seminars and classes and thought we were talking about one thing, and then 20 or 30 minutes into the program went, oh, I really didn't know the definition of that word. So the definition that I'm working with is from the Webster Dictionary, and the first part of the definition is, I'm going to read it so I don't get it wrong, worthy of acceptance or belief. The second part of that is an original. So the second definition is not false or imitation, and actually real or actual. So, and the last one, which I think is very interesting, is true to one's own personality, spirit, or character. So, hi, Bonnie.
Hey, how's it going? So
Yeah.
sorry.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm so good, and it's so good to see you. Yay.
Like,
So, everybody, this is my guest, Bonnie Violet, and she's going to be talking with us today about authenticity, as I said before. And I just got us going with the definition for authentic and authenticity, but authentic. And so, what a perfect time for you to pop in. So, we before we go any further, though, I want to get us on maybe a same page, literally. So, something to think about is that in authenticity, I think it's about creating the life of our dreams through that authenticity. And I think there's three stages to it. So, the first stage is the self discovery, the reconnecting to ourselves, because I think so many of us, I think as children, we know who we are, we experience who we are, and then we get feedback from either parents or society that maybe though that authentic part of ourselves maybe is not comfortable to other people or comfortable society, etc. So then we start changing, making small changes at first and then maybe larger changes as we go on. So I think the first stage to creating that authentic life, that authentic dream life, is that self-discovery and that reconnection to who we are. And that stage two is then creating core value-based goals and creating that dream. And then that authentic accountability. So as a coach, many people come to me for accountability. And I have to be really mindful that are they wanting to be accountable for goals that are authentic to themselves? Because sometimes the reason we don't do things is because deep down we know that it's not really us. And that's where the resistance comes from. So I think in building that authentic dream life, that the last part is then making sure that we're being authentic accountable, but to the authentic part of ourselves. So why I have Bonnie on today is to talk about stage one. So the self-discovery and reconnection. So now, Bonnie, I know you're one of my dear friends, so I know a lot about you, but some of the people watching don't know your story. So can you quickly kind of tell us who you are and what you do?
for sure. Yeah. I'm Bonnie Violet. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a trans, femme, genderqueer, spiritual drag artist, and digital chaplain. Those are the things I kind of identify with nowadays, along with many other things. These identities, yeah, they seem to make the most sense for now.
I love that. Yeah. Well, let's start with that. So, talk about identities and authenticity and what that means to you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think my identity has been a big part of, I guess, finding authenticity or
Uh-huh.
getting to know myself more. I mean, I think what identity's been helpful for me in the past, and it's been very limiting in the past. And so, like when I was younger, it was helpful to take on a certain identity. For a while, I identified as a gay man, and so in but while identifying as a gay man, then there were certain behaviors that you did, or certain like there was just some like expectations that came with that sort of identity. And so in some ways it kind of like let all the other questions fall away. For instance, I because I was a gay man or a gay boy, I was kind of allowed to be feminine, and I was allowed to be flamboyant, and I was
Mm,
allowed to kind of like embrace and express myself in those ways, which I felt like because I was a gay man that I kind of had some more freedom to do that versus when I had seen myself as as a straight man or um, just a non-gay, non-queer person.
yeah. Well, and I think you bring up an interesting point is that sometimes in getting to our authentic selves, we have to try on identities, I think, or maybe. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but I think I mean, I have definitely done that.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know if it's what we like. I don't know if it's a good idea. I think it seems to be a common way of kind of getting through life. But
that's a great way to put it.
the longer that I live and I think the closer I get to being authentic, I feel like I've always attempted authenticity. I think just in that is probably as authentic as it can get in the moment. So I wouldn't say I ever was an inauthentic person, but I wasn't always living. I wouldn't have saw myself that way, but there were definitely parts of myself that I just wasn't exploring and I wasn't expressing for a number of different reasons.
Yeah. For me, I can definitely say I was not authentic, and it was
Mm,
a purposeful choice because I didn't find worth in my authentic self. And
Hmm.
I think that, especially being a survivor of, sexual abuse and also of other things, child of alcoholic, etc., I learned to adapt really quickly to make
Hmm.
sure that I could get through the situation safe.
Right.
And also, then I think that I got to a place where then I kind of had to believe my stories in order to make them seem authentic, I guess. So I think I kind of the lines blurred a little bit. I didn't quite know who I was. So I think that was my journey.
Yeah, and I think, I guess to kind of reiterate that, I never thought I was living inauthentically.
Mm,
Like, and sometimes for me, because I was living as a queer person or like whatever, I kind of felt like I don't know, like I was already living in that sort of space. And the truth is that there was more for me to go. There was further for me to go and more for me to express and more for me to find out about myself. So that's just what I meant. I mean, yes, I've struggled with being authentic, but it's not something that I was like. It wasn't, I guess, a, like a challenge that I was like aware of. You
yeah.
know, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, it totally makes sense. And I think that I think we're all doing the best we can at any given moment. I mean, that's what it comes down to. So, and one of the reasons I'm inviting people on the show is to discuss their experience of coming to authenticity or the journey, because I think we all look at it a little differently. So I don't think there's a right or wrong. It's just how we look at it. And I think that wherever you're at, you're at. And I think that one of the things about being authentic is in the present moment, just acknowledging what's going on right now, not what's happened or what's going to happen, but kind of where we're at right now. So I thank you for the explanation. That makes sense. Um, so what about authentic? So you do a lot of spiritual work with people,
Mhm.
and I think of when I'm looking at my quote unquote spiritual self and authentic self. I would like to think that my soul, my authentic self, is one and the same. And then sometimes I can beat myself up for not seeming to present that way or experience that way. So, can you talk a little bit about authenticity, spirituality, and maybe the soul or the oneness or however you talk about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think, being further down the road, I don't know how I ever thought I could be authentic without connection to a God or spirituality or even my own spirit. You know,
Right?
the thing that was really interesting is that, I was a person who grew up with like God and Jesus and church, and I loved it and I
Yes.
embraced it. And then all of a sudden, I found myself to be queer and, all those sorts of things that told me that I was no longer eligible for God, which somehow then like stole my spirituality. And then
Mm,
thought I was living into my authentic self. And I was to the best that I could, but my spirituality was not really a part of that. And now that I've been able to kind of tap into my spirituality, and for me, I feel like my authentic expression is me like showing my spirit on the outside. It's like really allowing myself to like free myself enough to just be with whatever it is that I'm in that moment, whether it's an expression of a hair color or it's sadness about a relationship not being the way that I want it to be, or it's joy because somebody saw me a way that I wanted them to see me, all those sorts of things. To me, I feel like that's this, those are all like things that touch my spirit. Those are the things that like that animate me. They can animate me in very life affirming and like joy filled ways, or it can also, hit me in a way that's, causes my spirit to be weak or low. But for so long, and the spirit has always been there, and I'd always been connected. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think connection and brokenness are like lies. They're not the truth. Like, we
right.
don't break, and we're never really apart from ourselves or from others. I believe we can experience that way, that our mind allows us or tricks us into causing us to live in a reality in which those things can appear and seem true. But I think for me, coming to see that that's not true is really a big part of, you know, I guess reaching and seeking that. authentic self.
Yeah. And they, some people mention about, waking up or kind of, being in the dream or whatever. So I think that sometimes we can be consciously, trying to stay away from our soul or our spirituality or whatever, or sometimes we just kind of forget. And I think that that's been my experience, is kind of forgetting that
Hmm.
who I am. So I mentioned that the first stage of this process, that when I'm coaching clients, is the self-discovery and reconnection. And I feel like that you have, well, I feel like you're kind of like the poster person for this. Do you think that's right, or do you think I'm given? What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of people look at me and see me and assume that I must be like super authentic. So in those ways, yes, I get that that sense. I have been the poster child to things in the past, and I've not always had my best experience with that. So I tend to cringe a little bit at the thought of that. But I understand what you're saying, and I think most people, like I appear and seem to be somebody who I think reminds people, just in seeing me, about what it might look like to live a little, maybe more into how they want to live or how they want to express or to experience some sort of, freedom.
Well, let me go back a couple of steps, because maybe the poster person for the process. I've known you a very, very long time, Bonnie, and I think it takes such courage to, first of all, acknowledge kind of, if we're not living authentically, we discover a new part of ourselves, and then to embrace that part of ourselves, and then just start living that part of ourselves. I mean, there's so many parts to that, and that's what I want to discuss tonight, is how do you find that courage. Um, and I love what you were talking about, believing things even though they're not real. I believe that, and fear. One acronym is, false evidence appearing real. You know what I mean? But I think that, at least for me, it's been really scary to let go of those definitions of myself.
Yeah.
Even though I know I'm hurting, like my definition of myself, I am not who I think I am. I don't like it, but yet I will embrace it because I just don't want the change, or I'm so scared of what's going to happen. So finding that courage. So I think in that, I've watched you walk through those steps.
Hmm.
And that's what I mean by I think that we're all, I don't want to say that I think, you're completely authentic, are any of us, do you know what I mean? But I think that I watch you go, something doesn't feel congruent with who I am. The vibration is not who I am.
Yeah.
And then you say, I'm open to discovering who I am. And then I watch you kind of walk through that discomfort, or I would say it's always discomfort, but that place where the courage is needed.
Right.
And then I've watched you kind of blossom into, yourself. So I think that's what I meant. So, but so talk to us a little bit about your process with that journey. If you feel like the journey is correct, first of all, and if it is, then talk to us about it.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, to some degree, I feel like what else do we have to do in life than to find out who we are and to live into that in the best way that we can. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what else our job is really. Um, but yeah, I'm kind of losing my thought for a second.
Well, I think that's interesting, because I think that I want to be very clear, is that I don't think people have to do this work. In fact, I know a lot of people who don't. This work is not by the faint of heart, and I people go to their graves, with secrets, with just all of this stuff. And I'm not saying it's bad or good. It's an experience. I think we choose different experiences while we're here. But I think that, what a choice to try to rediscover or to awaken to who we are. Um,
I don't know. It just feels like there's no other choice. Like it just feels like it's like there's obviously always a choice, but is there really? Like when you know what the result is, why would you choose anything different? Do you know
mm,
what I mean? And it's like, if you know the result for not choosing it, and that's
yeah.
more of what I felt more sure of, is I knew what it was like to not live seeking that and reaching toward my authentic self. But like if I could just stretch a little further, there might be something more. There might be actually something better for me to experience. So that's why I feel like I can't not like continue to um, excavate and explore and discover more of myself, and my relationship, like with the things about me and around me.
I love that. First of all, if you're just joining the show, I'm glad you're here. Comments are open. Feel free to join the conversation. I have Bonnie Violet as my guest. She's been on the show several times with my co-host, and I've known her for years. But I really wanted to get her take on this topic, especially. So we're talking about authenticity as part of the authenticity series that I am producing right now. So I think that I don't think, I know as a coach that one of the major journeys for our clients is this journey to living authentically and to make choices from their authentic selves. Many times we make choices that aren't in congruence with who we are. And usually those choices produce even more stress or chaos in our lives, etc. So, and Bonnie, I think you said it beautifully. Is that why would we choose anything else? And I think fear is the number one reason we don't choose something else. I'm afraid of what's going to happen if I stay living inauthentically, but I'm so scared of what's going to happen if I do live authentically. I mean, I can, as someone in recovery, that thought of like, I know the drugs are killing me. Like, I know what's going to happen. And the thought of putting them down, like, what is my life going to be like? Who am I going to be? Like, and there's always this moment of, Polar Nights, oh my gosh, hello. Thank you for listening from Norway. Love it. I had to stop my thought. I love it. Um, hello, Norway. But this, I think every journey into this authenticity is that moment of stepping off into the unknown, and that's really scary. You know,
Yeah.
who's going to abandon us? Who's going to, not, be on our journey anymore? Who's not going to be a part of our tribe, etc. Um,
Yeah. Well, I know for me there's been two challenges that I've had. Once I was able to kind of start to have the connect with the spiritual aspect, and kind of have my spirit or spirituality drive the experience, is that I really struggled with just emotions, and just my own woundedness around my emotions and inability to kind of sit with them and be with them and express them and be authentic with them. I feel like
right,
my emotions has been something that has made it difficult for me to really be fully authentic with things. And sometimes I've learned that sometimes the authenticity in that is just to be able to say, I'm really sad about this, or I'm really mad about this, and not having to be like on the other side of it, or not
right,
having like super evolved with it. Cause that's what I would do, is I would perform that I was okay, or that everything was all right, or that what you were doing didn't really bother me. And that's how I was unauthentic for a very long time, and still really struggle not to be inauthentic in those ways.
right. I think it's the first step someone can take is just to acknowledge kind of where they're at. Don't
Mhm.
doesn't necessarily mean you have to acknowledge to everybody else, but just start acknowledging within you. How do I feel? How do I, etc. So again, I think authenticity is being in the moment. I mean, that's all we can be. So I love that, Bonnie. That's
I
great.
think one of the other challenges that I've had too is like not really knowing, like sometimes it's helpful to know what's possible. And so I feel like I've struggled with the imagination sometimes, of really fully like leaning into and becoming more of who, and I guess who I can be. So I think the imagination is that part, and oftentimes it's like I need to see it in other people,
Right.
in order to try to see it in me. And also that's can be difficult, because sometimes comparing myself to
Mm,
another person has sometimes also caused me to can cause some friction, or some judgments, or some delay on myself, that can keep me from that authenticity as well. So I think it's a fine line.
I I agree with everything you just said. And thank you, Polar Nights. I agree. I respect people who can be themselves no matter what. Still working on that. So, um, Bonnie, you've said so much. So, I mean, that my mind is spinning right now. But I think that the, I forgot what I was going to say. Must be one of those nights. I love your birds, by the way.
My what?
Your birds.
Oh, I'm so sorry about
Don't
that.
be sorry. I love it.
I tried to put him to sleep.
I love it. No, wait, put them to sleep.
Well, you know
Uh,
that I
yeah.
covered them up so they thought it was nighttime.
I think the going back to the authenticity in the moment, that is powerful. Um, I think that, yeah, I think I've tried to be something I'm not, just so like I could have this outer mask on, whatever, and with emotions, even to myself, like that doesn't matter. I'm not hurt. I'm not whatever, because of the supposed to be's. And I think when I do get authentic, that is that's when the fullest experiences happen for me.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a few years back, I started really trying to live into this idea of like being integrated. Like, I want to bring all of who I am wherever I am. And if there's a part of me that is not allowed in a space, or if it is in a space and I don't feel safe or whatever, like, I want to not, I want to choose to not be there if I can. I want to choose
mm,
not to take that job, or I want to choose not to be in that relationship, or I want to choose not to do that thing. And so I think that's something I really try to do, is to be able to bring on myself. And that doesn't mean that I have to bring on myself, to
right.
action, but I feel like it feels like I want to be in a space in which I'm making that choice, that it's not like it's a decision that I'm making, not
Yeah.
in stress or out of fear or out of concern, but because I don't feel like it, or because I don't think I don't need to bring that into this space for whatever reason. But I
Yeah.
think there's an intentionality and an awareness of not bringing I mean, because the truth is your fullness is there all the time, period. And so you can either be aware of it or not.
Yeah. I agree. Um, I think I've also learned that not everyone gets the privilege of seeing all of me all the time. Like and I'm not sure. Maybe that's not. Maybe I'm not being authentic when that happens. That's interesting. I need to think about that. Or going into spaces where I don't. Um, right? Very cute dog. um, um, I think I still do go into spaces, and I think that there is different parts of me that go into spaces, and that I don't show all of me. And that's an interesting thought, Bonnie.
Well, and what is it that actually is us? Like,
Right?
because if, like, I think sometimes we feel like, well, I don't need to bring in my damage or my, like, whatever it is, like, that's private or whatever. Like, I don't know, I wonder if some of that stuff is really even us, like if
Right.
that's something that is me,
Yeah.
more of something, I don't know, attached or around. I don't know.
Yeah. I love all the animals.
They all were like chill, and
I
now,
love it. They're being their authentic selves. Like I
right.
will not be. Yeah. And I also, you mentioned, going back a couple steps, is that one thing about living authentically is it gives other people permission to do it. And I think, Bonnie, you do that. I think that you give people permission to voice who they are, or at least to try on who they are. So yeah.
Or
I think
even just spark that imagination. I know how important, I mean, and that's not why I exist the way that I exist, but it does cause me to be willing to do it though too, because it's like, yes, I'm doing it for me, but if it can be helpful to somebody else, then that's that's great too. And some days that's more than just what I feel like. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
it's more than just what I'm feeling like that day. Sometimes it's also like, how can this impact? I believe that God or creator or whatever, like, this is who the fuck I'm meant to be. And in my existence, is to help heal and make the world a better place. And part
Right.
of that is how I look.
Yes. I also have a feeling. All right, we have one more comment. So polar nights, I feel more comfortable with my brother's gay friend than with my straight friends. It is like I can be 100% me. I don't know why.
It's
Thank you. Right?
mhm. Yeah, I mean, I think it's because like there are parts of it, I think especially as being like when I identified as a man and I was saw as a man, like it was not very like part of being a man was to be kind of I feel like there was some rigidity and there was some I, I need a second. Give me 1 second. Sorry.
Sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sure. I love it. We'll come back to Bonnie in a second. Um, I can totally relate. I can relate to what Bonnie's saying so much. And thank you, Polar Nights, because I think that in the where I have been, like different environments, that I adapt to kind of what people want, or I feel like I have to have walls up to protect myself. And I think boundaries, my authentic self with boundaries is it's interesting because I think most of my life I've worked on boundaries. And then once I start getting more authentic with myself, those boundaries start appearing naturally. Like I don't have to really work on that. Or people who are authentic, those boundaries pop up and they actually are there. Like you're like, no, this isn't who I am, and I'm going to go to the next space, or whatever it may be. So I love this conversation we're having. And if you are just joining us, we are talking about authenticity and the idea of the rediscovery of ourselves, and the reconnection to ourselves, in order to be authentic. So I think so many times in our life, we are told by society or family or whoever it may be that it'd be more comfortable for them if we came out this way, if we acted this way. So I think, at least I have altered who I am in order to fit into those spaces. And as Polar Nights, someone who's watching, so said that in some spaces they feel more comfortable than others. So I love it. So I have with me today my guest Bonnie Violet, who is back with us.
Heck.
So this is my theory or my thought about something. I feel like when I was a little boy, that I was authentic, and I would do things and then be so surprised, or I don't know what the question, surprised or even stunned that people didn't appreciate who I was in the moment, or had feedback to kind of like feedback like you can't do that, or boys don't do that, or you need to do X, Y, and Z. And I was, yeah. Then I quickly was like, oh, I need to make a change in who I am in order to fit in here. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think on a very spiritual level, we know who the fuck we are from like day one. Like that stuff's in there. And I think you hear a lot of people talk about it's not about like, it's not about what's out. Like I know for me, the truth is like the longer that I live and the more that I, seek this, like the more I just get back to that original knowing of my purpose as a spiritual being.
Right?
Um, here on the world, not only just for myself but for all of us, and like there and like the comfort, like yeah, I mean, I understand what you mean because I've gotten a lot of stuff put on me, a lot of things told that this is how you be, how you this is how you have to be, and this is how you have to act. And there's been a lot of trauma and violence and things that have enforced that
Yeah.
sort of a response in the world. And a few years back, I wanted to stop just being a product of the shit that happened to me to just be created by all of that stuff. Like now I really try hard to be a co-creator in my life. To like those things do create those
Mm.
things for me, and those do have an impact on me. But I get to have a role in that and how those things are going to impact me and what I'm going to do with it. Because for so long, I didn't know who I was half the time because I was just letting myself be created by all these things that have happened to me, all these things that were put on me, and I just tried to pretend it wasn't happening, or tried to pretend that it didn't happen, or to run away from the pain
Mm.
that was present, to acknowledge and notice those things. And so it's just like, yeah, yeah, that's what I had to say.
That's a lot. Thank you. I mean, that was great stuff. Not a lot. I mean, you're just, every time I talk to you, there's so much I leave with. Um, so what suggestions do you have for people to kind of reconnect with themselves so they can start hearing that spiritual part of themselves?
Hmm. For me as like a queer chaplain and like the things that I do, I think for me a big part of it was just spirituality, like able to meditate or connect with my inner self, to explore and um, like take an inventory, if you will, or really examine myself and my life and everything around me. And so I think that's a big part of it, is just kind of to stop and
Mm.
take assessment and maybe invite somebody to help you along that journey. Like I know for me, I've had lots of people, whether it was somebody who would like help me in my recovery or help me with going through my transition, or helped me with dealing with my HIV status, or coping with a rape. Like it's been very helpful for me to be able to talk to and connect with people who are on the other side of that experience, who are holding it in a way that I want to hold it, to kind of be healed by it. And so for me, I think that's a big part, is one, is to really find out for myself and just to stop and say, hey, like something's not right. And then I kind of needed some help. I needed to surrender to some other folks.
Well, it's interesting that we're kind of tying this to spirituality and spirit. And I don't think spiritual things can be done by ourselves. Do you know what I mean? Like we're all connected. So it's interesting you're tying this. And I hadn't thought about this, but I think one of the first things I needed was someone to witness me and to see me, and also a tribe who could remind me who I was when I forgot. And I love we were talking about things happening to us and us changing, to fit that environment. And I had a mentor who, and something I use in my coaching all the times is that I would say something and they'd be like, "Who is that talking? Because that's not you." And my voice would actually change. And when I'm working with clients, I could hear their voice change. And that question was really powerful to me because I'm like, "Oh, that was my mother."
Mm,
And and nothing wrong with the statement, but it's not who I am. And
right.
that was powerful. So I think that I need people to kind of mirror back, not so much validation for who I was, like that's good, that's bad, but just to challenge me, saying, "So is that you? And what do you really believe about that?" And I think that that's part of the spiritual journey, like that when two or more gathered in my name, I mean, that whole thing of like, that's when spirit's present. When I'm by myself, I get caught up in my illusions or my forgetting or whatever, and I start making up who I think I
Yeah, and I think sometimes it's hard to know what's spiritual and what's mental,
am.
and like the heart, like what's all these sorts of things. So, I think part of it is just taking a stab at it, and you know what I mean. And
Yeah,
the like the when we talk about the spiritual stuff, it's not like necessarily going to church or even going to a god about it. It's
right.
really just acknowledging there's a part of that, there's a spirit within us, within me, and just trying to connect with that in some way, or to notice and kind of let it guide
Mm.
guide me and help me and heal me, and all those sorts of things.
And I love that you just mentioned that. I think along this path is getting to know when you're speaking and then when your head or whatever is speaking. And there's lots of times that you're like, "Ooh, and it's very, for me, it's very subtle. Like my soul, my spiritual part, whatever, is the quietest part of me usually. Usually, there's times when it screams at me, but it's the quietest part. I have all these other voices, and all the fears and stuff. I should do this for the money, or I should do this or this, and then all of a sudden, this little part goes, or you could do this. It's just like a little quiet thing. And so I think that part of this process is getting to hear those parts of those, quote unquote voices inside of us, and to know, oh, wait a minute, that's little Bobby talking. And that's who I am. So yeah, very cool. Um, so again, I think that this in creating authentic life, when I say dream life, but authentic life, the first step is getting to know who you are, I think. And yeah, oh, and Satisfaction Speaks, thank you, whoever Satisfaction Speaks. Loving this conversation. Join us if you have stuff to add, bring it in. But thank you for the feedback. So And that makes two of us who are enjoying this conversation because I would get much out of Bonnie. So, um, but yeah, I think that it is the um, kind of reintroducing or being reintroduced to ourselves and being gentle with ourselves, and at least for me, knowing that this process is not, linear. Like I'm going to be authentic. Oh, look, I'm authentic. It's never like that. I make a choice and I go, that didn't quite feel right,
Yeah.
or that felt right, and I have no idea why it felt right. So
Just stop and notice. Like just take
yeah,
a notice of what's here.
yeah, exactly. Love that. I know that our time is coming to a close. So, any last thoughts from you on this conversation?
No, it was interesting. There was so much almost kind of chaos about us with like the dog and the birds
Yeah,
and uh and so like but I really appreciated this conversation. I just encourage people to have these sorts, like I love that you're in my life and that I get
mm,
to, you ask the questions and you create a platform for me to get to speak to some of these things, because I said some shit today that like are my truth and I was aware of, but I don't know that it's ever come out of my mouth in that way before. And sometimes we just need an opportunity to be able to speak out what our experience is, and then you know what I mean, like speak out what our experience is, and then it just becomes that much more true and
yeah,
that much solid.
right.
So
Yeah,
for that.
of course. Oh my gosh. And thank you for talking to us tonight. And someone. So then,
Yeah,
oh,
Polar Nights jumped from Twitch to YouTube, so thanks so much. It's good to see you on.
love it. Thank you. Thank you, Tor. So, Bonnie, like always, thank you so much for joining us, and of course, you'll be on again. Um, and tell people where they can find you, so they can get more of the goodness that's Bonnie Violet.
Okay, well, I do a queer chaplain. Is kind of like the best place to just kind of look for a queer chaplain on all the socials, whether it's YouTube or Twitch or Instagram. Some I'm better on than others. I have a Patreon as well. Um, really, I'm on like 3 or 4 podcasts around living in recovery. I have a conservative aunt, Christian, who I am great pals with, and we have a podcast together talking about what that's like. And I interview drag queens and trans folks about their spiritual experience. And yeah, I mean that's just all some of the stuff that I'm playing with, and would love to connect with more people.
That sounds great. What's Patreon? I'm not sure if I know what that is. What is that?
Patreon is it's a way in which people can support the work that you do.
Hmm.
Um, like it's kind of like a subscription, if you will. They can
Oh,
they can sign up and pay a certain like $3 a month or something like that, and then they're like a part of your crew, which helps support you. And then you are able to communicate with them specially, and they usually get first dibs on a lot of the content and the conversation. And so
well, cool.
something that's really helpful, and will be helpful for me, and continuing to kind of like build more of myself, I guess, and hopefully bring people along, with me.
Yeah, we need to keep you doing the work you're doing. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
The question,
absolutely.
Polar,
Um,
Polar Knights had a question.
let's see. When is the next podcast, Mister? So that's a great question. Usually the show was on Saturdays at noon Central Time, Chicago time, and now we're kind of broadcasting when a guest is available and everything. So our YouTube channel or on Facebook, you can find all past things. So that's my stuff. And then Bonnie, when is yours?
Right now, I have a podcast on uh, Tuesday afternoons, Pacific time, 4 p.m. Pacific time. Again, that was kind of centered around recovery. It's called At the CCC, which can be found at the Castro Country Club, pages. And then on Thursday mornings at 8 a.m., again, Pacific Standard Time, is the podcast with my aunt at this point.
That sounds great. Good. um, that's true. It's so funny. I was just talking to my partner today about that plan. He wants me to get rid of it but I've had it for years. And I just can't kill it. Like I can't throw it away. And it's dying. It's on its last legs, but I'm like, I can't get rid of it. But you are right. I need to I need to have more plants. So feedback duly noted. And Robert, yeah, okay, thanks, Robert. I'm kidding. It's good to see you, Robert. I haven't talked to you in a long time, so thank you. But yes, um, I love the conversation we've had. So, Bonnie, we'll have you back again, obviously. I wish you the best this week, and thanks for being on the show.
Thanks so much. It was so great to meet you this evening, Polar Nights. Take care.
Bye. So Bonnie Violet, of course, always such an amazing, amazing guest. And we were talking about, I mentioned that in my coaching and working with people, especially around authenticity, that we have this, the three stages that we work through. And the first one is the self-discovery and reconnection, so that people can hear themselves when they're making their dream life. So many times that people we create things because we think we're supposed to, or we think they're going to make us happy. In actuality, though, usually they're built out of fears of not getting something or fear of losing something. And so in this process, we reconnect people to their inner voice, so that that little voice can say, actually, this is what will make me happy. And then stage two then is creating those goals out of our values that we explore in stage one. So next week, we're going to be talking about stage two and how we create those core value-based goals and how we even figure out what our values are and all that kind of good stuff. So this, as I said, this has been Perfect Detours. And to Tor's question, usually it's weekly. It really depends on when guests are available right now until the radio station gets up and running. But I am so grateful for this opportunity and to continue this conversation with everybody. And I'm so grateful that people have jumped in. We had a great chat tonight, and you can find me on Facebook, which is probably where most people are watching this, but on YouTube, Instagram, all those kind of things. So I'll put up my information in the last slide, but I wish you the best for tonight as my text message is going off. We've had a night of noises, which has been awesome, very authentic. So anyway, I wish everyone the best, and please have a great week, and I wish you authenticity all through the week. Bye, everybody.